Dr. Jaffe, we frequently get questions about water filtration systems, and I'd like to hear what you recommend to folks that don't have the ability to be on a well.
Yes, the issue of water quality, I think, is very important. Water is our beverage of choice, herbal beverages, etc. So this is what we bathe in, this is what we cook with, this is what we drink, this is essential for life. I mean, without water, we can't survive. What about the quality of the water? Well, if you have third aquifer well water, you should still have it tested once or twice a year, but you're very fortunate. If you don't, I recommend seriously considering getting a 5-gallon glass-sourced mineral water that is delivered to you however often you need it. They usually loan or offer you either a device that allows you to pick this up and put it in and then dispense the water, or tilt and dispense the water. Why do I say that? Because there are many other choices. There's reverse osmosis, but there's lots of problems with reverse osmosis. Unless you have multiple pre-filters, the little membrane that makes the reverse osmosis work will have holes punched in it within a very short period of time. These membranes are expensive. You don't want to replace them more often than you need to. And yet, my experience is they tend to break down within a few months. Beyond that, it takes about 50 units of water to get 1 unit of reverse osmosis water on the other side. So if you want 1 liter, 50 liters are going to go through the system. If you're paying for water, your water bill will go up if you put an RO system in. And they'll explain to you that you're getting the bad stuff out and it's worth the added expense, but be careful is my point of view. Then there are the many devices, not very expensive, generally charcoal blocks of one sort or another, plus or minus silver, plus or minus things. And they either go under your tap or on your tap, or you pour the water through them. And they're fine, except to me, they have one really serious flaw. And the serious flaw is when those blocks, those carbon blocks, saturate, they will then, after that, start delivering larger doses of the toxins. So those toxins will start leaching out of the trap. And how do you know that is happening? Well, it's very hard to know unless you're constantly testing the water. And there are now home lead testing kits, for example, if you're in a lead-rich area. But I did notice that several of the companies that make these home inexpensive lead testing kits have been stopped by the Bureau of Devices because their results were so inconsistent. So testing water from the tap is possible. You can test it for what I think is necessary, and that is the 5 categories. You want to test for VOCs, solvent residues, as a category. Do you or do you not have volatile organic chemicals known as solvent residues in your water? Do you or do you not have persisting organic pollutants, POPs, known as hormone disruptors? It's a subgroup, but do you have persisting organic pollutants as a category, as a group in your water? Do you have toxic metals? Do you have mold products? Do you have any radioisotopes? Now, I didn't used to include radioisotopes, but now after Fukushima and Chernobyl is continuing to be a problem, these 5 categories are the anti-nutrients. These are the 5 categories of what deplete your body of the good things, and if they build up in your body, promote ill health. So there's a double reason to avoid them. 1, you do not want them to be able to deplete you, and you do not want to have the chronic ill health, the inflammatory, autoimmune, chronic degenerative, neurodegenerative disorders that are associated with body accumulation of even modest amounts of toxic metals. To me, it often requires a rethinking and an understanding, a more deep understanding of the mechanisms so that you can achieve the triple aim, better health, better care, lower cost. We can do this based on what people eat, drink, think, and do. And water is so important that I will offer you wildcard solutions if they are available near you. For example, some communities have a community artesian well. This is a place where water comes up spontaneously, and in some communities you can go and fill up your jugs and bottles at the community artesian well. In other cases, in almost all places of the United States today, you can have bottled water delivered. I did say in glass. I am no longer confident that any of the plastics, even the polycarbonate hard plastics, are benign enough. 80% of the toxins that we have in our bodies are mostly delivered through our water, and they're mostly short-lived, which means we're continuing to take them in. So in essence, we are marinating in a sea of these chemicals. Many of them are in our water. If you can have deep well water, you're fortunate. And if not, I would still get a source that's uncontaminated, either kind of on a subscription basis, that it gets delivered either on a fixed schedule or when you request, by any of the companies that will convince you that this really came from a deep mountain spring somewhere far away from contaminants. I will say that most bottled water, for example, is just bottled tap water, and therefore I don't think it's worth drinking. I do not recommend water bottled in any of the plastics. The softer, the worser, but none of them from my point of view. So if you're going to go to the trouble of bottling your water, I think it should be in glass. The larger the carboy, or the larger the holder, the larger the glass, the more economical it is, because they can be recycled completely and refilled, sterilized and refilled. So that is my recommendation, and I know that excludes a lot of very popular solutions, but when I look both as a consumer and as a scientist, many of these solutions have problems that most people don't even want to hear about, let alone know about. And I'll leave you with one that causes the hair on the back of my head to rise. Almost all inline units that filter water become contaminated with bacteria within a few weeks. And hopefully not an aggressive bad strain, but I'm not sure I want to drink Serratia marcescens along with my tea or in my water. So there's lots of reasons to be cautious. Complete testing of water for those categories that I mentioned can be done for under $100. And there are multiple reliable water testing services now online that you can look up. On the other hand, a home testing kit that might cost you anywhere from $10 to $50, I would not recommend unless it convinces you somehow that it is accurate, that it's negative means no, and it's positive means something important, because many of those home tests are being withdrawn, redone, because they just don't have good split sample reproducibility. So that's a long answer about water. I think it's a very important topic. I'm glad to talk about it. And I wish I knew a more consumer-friendly solution. And I am glad to tell you that fortunately, where we live, we do have a third aquifer well water.